He entered the water believing it would be a simple dive. The conditions seemed calm, the visibility acceptable, and his experience gave him confidence. This was not his first descent, and nothing felt wrong at the surface. But underwater, time behaves differently. Movements slow, thoughts stretch, and small mistakes grow larger with every second. What began as routine would soon become irreversible. At a certain depth, something changed. His breathing became heavier, not from panic, but from effort. The current was stronger than expected, pulling gently but constantly. He adjusted his position, trying to conserve air, telling himself it was temporary. The surface was no longer visible, and the light above faded into a dull blur. Turning back already felt harder than going forward. Moments passed, or perhaps minutes. Underwater, it is impossible to know. His body signaled discomfort before his mind accepted danger. Each breath sounded louder inside his head, echoing in the confined silence. He checked his air, realizing it was lower than planned. Not critically low yet, but enough to force a decision. Panic didn't arrive suddenly. It crept in quietly. He attempted to ascend, but the effort felt wrong. His movements were slower, heavier, as if the water resisted every motion. His heartbeat accelerated, consuming oxygen faster than he expected. The urge to rush grew stronger, but instinct fought it. He knew sudden movements would make things worse. Still, the distance back felt longer than before, stretching endlessly above him. As the air diminished, his thoughts became fragmented. Simple actions required concentration. His vision narrowed, edges darkening as the world focused into a tunnel. He was no longer fighting the water, but time itself. In those final moments, there was no dramatic struggle, only the quiet realization that the exit was no longer reachable. The water remained still, indifferent. His body began to shut down functions that were no longer essential. Fingers felt distant, almost numb, responding slowly to commands. The sound of his own breathing dominated everything else, loud and uneven. Thoughts came in fragments, disconnected and heavy. Training faded, replaced by instinct. There was no clear plan anymore, only the fading hope that one more movement might change the outcome. The light above was still there, faint and unreachable, like a memory rather than a destination. His muscles burned, then weakened, refusing to respond with the same strength as before. The water pressed in from all directions, calm and unyielding. In that silence, there was no sense of time left, only the awareness that the surface existed somewhere beyond reach. The descent was planned, but the environment was unforgiving. This was not open water. The space narrowed quickly, walls closing in as he moved forward. Light from the entrance faded after only a few meters, replaced by artificial beams cutting through suspended particles. Every movement disturbed the silt below, turning the water slightly darker with each fin kick. The tunnel forced his body into a horizontal position. Turning around was no longer simple. The ceiling hovered inches above his back, the floor brushing his chest. He slowed his breathing, aware that every mistake would cost air. The silence was complete, broken only by bubbles drifting upward and disappearing into darkness he could no longer see. As he advanced, visibility collapsed. The silt he disturbed did not settle. It hung in the water like fog. The beam from his light reflected back at him, blinding rather than guiding. Direction became uncertain. Left and right lost meaning. His hand reached forward, touching stone, confirming the space was still there, still tight, still closing around him. He stopped moving. Panic rises faster in stillness. His chest pressed against the rock, limiting expansion. Each breath felt incomplete, shallow. He tried to reverse, but his fins struck stone, twisting his body at an unnatural angle. For the first time, the thought appeared clearly. If he turned wrong, he would not fit back through. His breathing accelerated despite every effort to control it. The sound echoed inside his mask, loud and constant. His light flickered slightly as he adjusted his grip, casting distorted shadows that moved like something alive. The tunnel no longer felt like a path, but a trap. Forward and backward felt equally impossible. Time stretched unbearably. Muscles cramped as he held himself still, afraid that movement would make the space tighter. His thoughts raced ahead of his body, imagining scenarios faster than he could stop them. Air drained steadily, indifferent to fear or logic. The walls did not move, but they felt closer with every breath. In the end, there was no dramatic struggle, only exhaustion. His grip loosened as strength faded, his light resting against stone, illuminating nothing but suspended darkness. The tunnel remained silent and unchanged. It did not collapse, did not close. It simply waited, holding him in place long after his movement stopped. This dive was different from the start. It required precision, patience, and absolute trust in the route ahead. The passage was known for its narrow turns and sudden drops. Once inside, retreat would be difficult. He entered slowly, aligning his body to fit the opening, aware that every centimeter mattered. Behind him, the entrance shrank into darkness. The corridor tightened unexpectedly. His shoulders brushed stone, forcing him to exhale deeply just to move forward. There was no room to raise his arms. The water felt heavier here, pressing against his chest and back simultaneously. He continued, believing the restriction would ease. It didn't. Each meter forward made the space less forgiving. Then came the mistake. A slight turn taken too early. His body rotated just enough to misalign with the passage. When he tried to correct it, the rock resisted. He was no longer moving forward, but he couldn't move back either. His chest expanded involuntarily, making the space tighter with every breath. Panic surged, sharp and immediate. He forced himself to stop, knowing that struggling would worsen everything. The darkness felt absolute now. His light reflected off stone inches from his face, revealing no clear path. He tried to empty his lungs, hoping his body would shrink enough to slip free. It wasn't enough. Air became precious. Each inhale was calculated, each exhale deliberate. His heart raced despite his efforts, draining oxygen faster than he could control. His arms tingled, then numbed. Thoughts turned inward, looping through the same realization. The passage would not allow him to turn, and it would not release him. Minutes passed unnoticed. His body trembled as fatigue set in. Muscles weakened, no longer capable of holding position. The rock pressed against him from every side, unchanging, indifferent. There was no collapse, no sudden failure. Only the slow certainty that nothing he did would create more space. As strength faded, his movement stopped entirely. The water remained still. The passage stayed exactly as it was when he entered. In that narrow space, time lost meaning. The error had been small, almost insignificant, yet irreversible. The cave did not react. It simply kept what it had claimed. The dive began far from daylight. This system had no natural light beyond the entrance, only darkness layered over more darkness. The plan depended on memory and markers placed weeks earlier. Once submerged, orientation relied entirely on artificial light and muscle memory. From the first minutes, the environment felt wrong, colder, heavier, quieter. Turning back was possible, but progress felt necessary. Depth increased gradually, then suddenly. The floor dropped away, forcing a controlled descent into blackness. His light revealed nothing beyond a narrow cone, swallowed instantly by the dark. Sound vanished. Even bubbles seemed to disappear before reaching anywhere. The sense of isolation became complete. There was no surface above, only layers of water pressing down with steady weight. The passage narrowed without warning. Rock closed in from both sides, reducing movement to inches. His equipment scraped stone, sending vibrations through his body. He adjusted carefully, aware that any sudden motion could jam him in place. Behind him, the route was no longer visible. Ahead, the tunnel curved downward, vanishing into black. Then, the light failed. Not completely, just enough to flicker, to weaken. Shadows deepened, swallowing familiar shapes. In that moment, direction ceased to exist. His breathing changed instantly, sharp and shallow. Without visual reference, his body lost its sense of position. Up, down, forward, everything felt the same. Darkness became physical. He tried to remain still, conserving air, waiting for clarity that never came. Time stretched unbearably. Each breath echoed inside his head, louder than the last. His hands searched blindly, touching cold stone inches from his face. The passage felt tighter now, though it hadn't changed. Panic pressed inward, as real as the water around him. Air dwindled faster than expected. His body demanded movement, escape, something, but every attempt met resistance. Muscles weakened, coordination faded. The darkness offered no feedback, no confirmation of effort. The water remained silent, unmoving. The cave did not shift, did not respond. It simply existed, indifferent to urgency. In the final moments there was no struggle, only stillness. His light rested against stone, illuminating nothing beyond suspended darkness. Breathing slowed, then stopped. The cave remained unchanged, holding its shape, its silence intact. What trapped him was not force or collapse, but space itself, unforgiving, absolute, and impossible to negotiate.